G'day guys, I am very excited to announce that we have hit 15,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel. That is a massive accomplishment and I am so proud and I am so thankful to all of you who helped me along this journey. By commenting, by liking and subscribing to the videos, you've gone a long way towards increasing the engagement of our content, which increases its reach, which allows me to produce bigger and better quality videos for more people. So this is something that I'm so proud of and I'm so appreciative that I've decided what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do a bit of a showcase and a walkthrough and a bit of a sort of a behind the scenes look at what goes on here at Blog for the Blood God, and talk a little bit about the history of the channel and that sort of stuff as well for those of you who have been part of that journey. You might find that interesting. And then also we're going to do a live streamed Q&A, which you can find the details for the times of that on our Facebook page, and also put a comment on the YouTube post as well, so that you can make sure that you're able to tune into that, where I'll be basically answering any and all questions from you wonderful viewers. But with that being said, let's flip the camera around and have a little bit of a behind the scenes look at Blog for the Blood God.
Blog for the Blood God.
Alrighty guys, welcome to the studio. So let's have a look around. As you can see, I got the computer set up here with the green screen behind me where I do most of my recording. The background that's used in that green screen is in the studio though. It's not a fake background. Behind all of here is 3D printing equipment, etc. And in these desks along here is all of my painting equipment. You can probably hear right now my co-host who's walking around in the floor here with me. He's in every video. You might not be able to see him or hear him in most, but you can probably smell him when they invent smell-o-vision, and that's my 14-year-old pug cross beagle Trigger, and I'll introduce you to him in a moment. But let's just do a quick further walk around. So behind me here is the backdrop that you see in most videos. We've got all of my trophies, my medals, and my World Eaters army lives in that backdrop. And then your tripod is currently sitting on one of the tables that we play in. And this garage is where we host our regular Tuesday get-together, where we get the top players from the state and we do practice games. A lot of WTC prep and ANZTC prep happens right here on these two tables. Also, a lot of drinks happen here, and we like to go pretty hard and have a lot of fun while we do it and build that community bonds. And then along this wall here, you can see I've got a large array of alternative armies that people can use when they come here to practice their games. So if we want to practice a Necron matchup or a Tyranid matchup, we've got all the models available and a second table. And then we go around here and we get back to the studio, which is where I do the majority of the work. So sitting here at this computer desk for hours on end after long days in a warehouse, making sure that I'm providing you guys with those high quality videos. So that's a general overview of the space, but now what we're going to do is we're going to have a close-up look at some of these elements. One of the other things that we've done in this garage to make those practice games really good, and something that I'm planning to do with battle reports going forward, are these two tables. And these are purpose-built for my garage, and they're actually really, really simple. They are actually just IKEA coffee tables. 4 of them stacked on top of each other to create the perfect dimensions for a 40k table with plenty of shelves for storage. And then I basically just got some wood and bolted on some edges so that the dice don't roll off, we don't drop models and that sort of stuff. And then the mats on top supplied by the Gaming Arena, which you can buy. There's Blog for the Blood God branded gaming mats you can buy there. And then the terrain on this side was provided by the Gaming Arena, and the terrain on this side was provided by Miniature Scenery. So there are a few sort of not sponsors of the channel, but sort of associates, and a free shout out to them because they do fantastic work and they've helped me set up this amazing sort of space. So yeah, the tables are really, really simple. As you can see, it's just 4 coffee tables, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've bolted them together so that they're sturdy. Gives you all the shelving, gives you the perfect layout for tables. And then I'm currently in the process of rigging a camera to the roof that's going to be a top down on one of these, so that while I'm sitting over here, I can do live streams. Now's probably a good opportunity to introduce my co-host. Like I said, he's in almost every video. You just can't see or hear him because he sits down here with me as little moral support. And he is my 17-year-old pug crossed beagle, and he's my best friend in the world. He's fucking ancient, and he fucking stinks, and he really struggles to get out of that bed with his arthritis. But he basically sits in there behind the camera, and he chills out with me whenever I'm recording. And every now and then he likes to get up like so, and interrupt my takes with his little tippy tappies on the floor. But yeah, he's an integral part of the channel. And on those Tuesday nights when we have all the boys over and we're got practice games happening, we open that garage door which leads out into the driveway in the front yard. And Trigger likes to hang out in the garden, and when we order pizza, he likes getting his free crusts. And yeah, he's a very special boy. And he loves his penguin pajamas, and he loves being wherever I am. Wherever my feet are, that's where he wants to be. But with all that being said, let's have a look at some of the... I guess the best place to start is probably with the Armies, right? And then we'll go through all of the trophies and the awards as well. All right, we're just going to go left to right, top to bottom, and go through all the models. So we've got a couple of Helldrakes in here. We've got some Spawn that I 3D printed that were available on Etsy until GW took me down. We've got the Lord Discordant. Underneath, we've got a bunch of Hellbrutes. There's old school box dreads back from, like, I think it was a 3rd or even a 2nd edition starter set. And then a bunch of the Dark Vengeance Hellbrutes converted with cool bloodletter heads. Underneath that, we've got a Blood Slaughterer, whatever it's called, a Venom Crawler, and then there's a Defiler there. There's a couple more on this side. Underneath that, we've got 3 Predators, very old models of mine, that the las cannons have broken off. We've got the big bad Reaver Titan, who's lost a finger. You can see this army's very old. I've had it for a long time, and there's been some battle damage over the years. We've got, along the top here, we've actually got 3 Lord of Skulls. And then we've also got a couple of Kaitans, which were conversions that I made when I very first got the Lord of Skulls kit, when it very first got released. I wasn't a huge fan of the tank tracks on them. They've since grown on me, and I've decided to buy 3 more. But yeah, I originally converted them to have legs. And then also on this shelf over here, we've got a Chaos Knight Rampager. He was a conversion that I made, one of my first attempts at using green stuff. And then along this top shelf, we've also just got some Goremongers. Then back down to here, we've got some of my very first attempts at 3D printing, which were these Contemptor Dreadnoughts. So that was my first attempt at modifying some STLs and then printing them. They were also available on my Etsy store until GW took me down. You can also see there's a Leviathan at the back there. And a couple of rhinos. These are my Gore-Track pattern rhinos. Which I'll open that so you don't get the glare. As you can see, they've got like a Spartan's assault ramp on the front. They were also available on Etsy. All of these things that were available on Etsy, you can get the STLs from my Patreon, if you're interested. Couple of Defilers. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the Defiler kit with the big bulky thing on the top, so I decided to make these little conversions to make them look more like a little scuttling scorpion. It's the same height with the tail, so that there's no modeling for advantage problem. But I just think they look a ton cooler, so we've got 3 of them. Then down here, we've got a couple of old Land Raiders that I've had kicking around. A couple of Stalkers. And then down the bottom here, we've got a Storm Raven and a Brass Scorpion with a Warpsmith. Then we've got 2 more Warpsmiths down here, another Storm Raven, another Brass Scorpion. Then over here, we've got another Brass Scorpion, and then a ton of old school Obliterators, the old metal ones. Then along here, we've got 6 Carnivores, 6 Wardog Carnivores. We've got 6 Wardog Brigands. We've got 3 more Land Raiders, so there's 2 here and 1 here. And these ones are really, really cool designs made by Icarus Pattern. You can find him on Instagram. And he does really cool custom stuff. He does World Eater stuff. He also does a bunch of other stuff as well. So a couple Land Raiders and then a Vindicator here. That's one of the first models I bought when I got back into Warhammer about 15 years ago. We've also got a bunch of Chosen along here. More Chosen along here for when I was doing this, obviously before the World Eaters Codex came out. And the CSM was the way to go. I was running Chosen. And then behind them, you'll see that there's another 8 Rhinos. And these Rhinos have the YouTube channel's logo on them and those same assault ramps. They were made for me by Miniature Scenery back in the day. We then got 3 Mauler Fiends up here and a couple of Chaos Lords to go along with those Chosen. Then we get into the more modern meta shit where we've got 3 Forge Fiends. These were actually made for Jeremy Martino when he was representing Team Australia with the Chaos Space Marines, but I've since repurposed them for my World Eaters. And then we've got these 3 Hellbrutes along here. These ones, once again, were available on Etsy, now available on my Patreon as an STL download. But unfortunately, I cannot sell those kits. So that's the first section. Then we get into this middle section. Now, this section's a little bit jumbled up, but let's power through it. I'm actually going to open both doors so that we don't have that glare. So we've got a bunch of, what are they called? Obliterators along here, 3D prints. We've got a Demon Prince, and then we've just got like a smattering of different characters. So there's Khan the Betrayer back there, but there's a bunch of Chaos Lords. In fact, I'm going to pull that Khan out because he's pretty cool. This is something that I won a few awards with back in the day, which is Khan the Betrayer, the old sculpt, modified to be ripping his way through a unit of Dark Angels. Khan's always been one of my favorite things in 40k, both in the game and in the lore. And you'll notice he's on a big base, but I made it so that that bit actually slots out. So he is on his proper 40mm base, but for the purposes of displaying him with great difficulty, you can slot him in to that display base. So that's my Khan the Betrayer. But yeah, most of this is just ad hoc characters, Chaos Lords, bits and pieces that we can use when we're doing games. There's a couple of Demon Princes in there, there's another one behind. Then we go down to the next shelf. Now this is when I took a very brief stint where I was exploring Emperor's Children alongside my World Eaters because I wanted to sort of expand the range. And what I wanted to do was create a color scheme that was able to sort of work with both the World Eaters and the Emperor's Children. So I kept the gold trim, but I made it bone color. And then I basically used red claws to represent the corn marked guys and purple to represent the Slaneshi marked guys. Then we go down here, we've got a ton of noise marines. So there's already, like, if we look at this, let's get a Terminator counter up there because there's a unit of 10 here, a unit of 10 back there, and then a unit of 6 over there. So that's 26 Terminators so far. Then we come along here, a bunch of Legionaries along the back and a bunch of noise marines up the front. I got a lot of success in, I think it was late 8th edition, or might have been early 8th edition, running a big unit of 20 noise marines. They were absolutely crazy back then. Then we go down here, we got a bunch of bikes along the back there, and then a bunch of possessed along the front. And like this is what I was talking about, where I was trying to make the possessed so that they kind of worked in a World Eaters army, but they would also work alongside my Emperor's Children without creating too much of a discohesion. Then down here we've got a couple of Dreadclaws and a Charybdis Assault Claw and some Decimators. Now these guys were fucking crazy in 8th edition. They've been retconned since then to essentially not exist. But you can see there again, like that was the one that had the Noise Marines in it, and that one had Berserkers in it. So that was my way of sort of making it so that they all fit together as one army, whilst sort of having that visual distinction. Now we get over into this one here, which has all of the modern World Eaters in it. So this is essentially my main cabinet. So you can see all of the 8-bound and the Exalted 8-bound along there. There's 3 units of 6 Exalted, 3 units of 3 regular, and I've got another 3 boxes so that I can make that 3x6 and 3x6, just to really pump up those numbers. We've got Lord Invocatus and 2 Juggernaut Lords. We've got this guy back here, who I used to use as a Dark Apostle. Now he makes a decent Master of Executions. Along the back there, we've got all of my Spawn, which I was not a huge fan of the Chaos Spawn model, so I decided what I'd do is I bought a couple boxes of 8-bound and then just kit bashed the hell out of them so that they look like, berserkers that had failed the cage and become a Spawn. We've got my Demon Prince back here, my Foot-Slugging Demon Prince. I'm a huge fan of this guy. I think he looks sick. And he's also got some really sick rules these days, so that's really fun. We've got more modern, more conservative Khan, a little bit less crazy with the standard base and whatever, but my Khan. Here's my converted Slaughterbound, which is just made out of an 8-bound kit with the blade, the demon blade from a possessed kit. So yeah, it's just a conversion. Then along the front here, we've got my 3 Masters of Executions. When the Codex first dropped, I decided to buy 3 of these guys and convert them up using bits and pieces from the Berserker and the 8-bound kit. So they're pretty cool. And then along the back here, we've also got 3 other characters that have been various things at different stages. Chaos Lords, Exalted Champions, fucking Dark Apostles, whatever I need them as at the time. Then we kick back down onto this shelf where we have over 100 Khorne Berserkers. So we've got the modern ones at the front, they're the ones I mainly use, but there's a ton of the old school sculpts in there as well. And every one of these has been painstakingly painted. These are some of the old ones that I painted many years ago. And yes, so these are a mixture of, old Legionary models, or just Chaos Space Marine chosen, things like that. But most of them are either the old Khorne Berserker kit, the new Khorne Berserker kit, or a kit bash of something. Then we get back down onto the next shelf, so keep that Terminator counter going. So we were on, 27? Now along here, you'll see that at the back there, we've got a unit of 10, another unit of 10, another unit of 10, and then along the front here, we've got my Etsy ones, my 3D prints, which again, the STLs are available on the Patreon. But these are my Red Butchers sculpts. These are the ones that I took to the WTC and got some pretty good results there in that realm, and where the infamous 30-nator list was born. So there's another 60 Terminators on top of the 27 up there. So we're nearly at 100 Terminators. Then down here we've got a bunch of Chaos Bikes. We've got Warp Talons. And then at the back there we've got some Raptors. There's a few interesting things here. One of them I'll show you is these Raptors that I've made. I got the Juggernaut head off of the Khorne Lord of Skulls, and I put that on these guys. So that's a Raptor. And then I've done the same thing. Oops, drop that guy. I did the same thing over here with these Warp Talons. So pretty happy with these as a conversion. These guys are really cool. And that was just made just because I thought it'd be fun. It had nothing to do, they weren't competitively viable at the time. I was just like, I felt like doing a cool conversion. And then these guys along the back here are an interesting one. So there was a period where you could actually take a unit of Flesh Hounds, if you took the right detachment. I think this was late 7th edition. You could take a unit of Flesh Hounds and you could add sorcerers to it, which I know is absolute heresy to the ears of a World Eaters player, but there was a competitive list that I created where you put 5 sorcerers in that unit of Flesh Hounds. You could attach Khan to that unit of Flesh Hounds as well, and you created this Death Star that was unkillable. Like, there was psychic powers that made it so you could only ever hit the unit on a 6, and then you couldn't hit it with flamer or blast weapons. It had a 4-up rerollable invulnerable save. It had a 5-up Feel No Pain, or a 3-up, might have been a 4-up Feel No Pain. It was ludicrously tough. Ludicrously tough. And then adding Khan to the unit meant that enemy units couldn't target you with psychic powers, which meant that they couldn't put their debuffs on you. It was fucked. It was truly fucked. So I basically made these guys for my competitive World Eaters list. And what I did in order to get around the narrative, because I'm like most people, I don't like putting psychers in my Khorne units. What I did is I decided to make it so that instead of them being sorcerers riding bikes, they were Khorne lords riding bikes. And the psychic powers that they got were the result of these Grey Knights that were impaled on their backs. And the idea was that it wasn't the Khorne guy casting the psychic powers, it was that Grey Knight casting powers to keep himself alive, and then these Khorne guys were benefiting from it. And then all of their bases, each one of them has a piece of a Dread Knight on their base, and if you position them all together, the Dread Knight like lines up, and then all of them sort of, it looks like they've just charged and taken down a Dread Knight. So that was a really cool little hobby project. And then also over here we've got the Khorne Demonkin Codex. When it first came out, there was an enhancement you could give, or a relic, called Korlath. I believe it was Korlath. Yeah, Korlath. And basically what that was when the bearer died, you got to summon a Bloodthirster where he was. So basically what I did is I put that enhancement on a Khorne Lord on a bike, and then I just send him in turn 1, and if my opponent killed him, boom, I get a Bloodthirster turn 1. So I decided to make him a kitted out hog, where I've extended the handlebars, put in a really cool like headlight, and then he's got the banner saying Korlath shall rise. Fucking love this model. So yeah, that's the next shelf down. So that's like sort of the fast attack shelf, if you will. That's the elites, and that's the troops. And then down the bottom here, we've got 2 more Charybdis Assault Claws and a Dreadclaw. Now, it's very dusty in here. I probably should have cleaned this out before filming, but, you know, fuck it. Who cares? These guys were really good for... There was one meta list that I ran that had 2 of these with 20 Khorne Berserkers in each. And basically, through various ways, you could deep strike them, then after you disembark, you could then move, and you'd be 3 inches away from your opponent, and then you'd charge. And this is back when Berserkers had fight twice. So you'd fight, you'd kill everything at the front, then you'd pile into the next unit, fight, kill that, pile into the next unit, and then you could spend CP to fight a 3rd time. So this was a fucking absolutely brutal list. Yeah, so that's the modern World Eaters shelf. Which obviously I use a lot of elements from the Chaos Space Marine side as well, but that's all the modern World Eater stuff. Then we jump over into this section. So if I take a step back, this section over here is my Khorne Demons section. So I try to keep it separate. Khorne Demons there, World Eaters there, Chaos Space Marines there. So in here we've got the Epic Heroes. So we've got Skulltaker. Huge fan of this lad. He's cool. We've got Mr. Angron himself, painted by Iron Wolf Studios. Adrian Straff did a fantastic job painting him. Then we've got Scarbrand, one of my favorite guys in the lore. You know, when your whole shtick is that you're so angry you fucking tried to punch on with Khorne himself. That's pretty cool, and I really like the paint job I've done on this model. The muscle work was something I experimented with, and I'm really happy with the outcome of that experiment. So, and the wings and everything. Yeah, huge fan of Scarbrand. And then we've got 2 Bloodthirsters behind him there. So if we keep a count of Bloodthirster-like models, we've got 4 there. Then down here, bunch of Bloodletters, bunch of Fleshhounds with Karanak, and then a bunch of Blood Crushers. This was one of my first attempts at doing some kind of blending with the swords to try to make them look like flames. And I'm really happy with the way that turned out. So that's my my Bloodletters, my Fleshhounds. So you can see the same sort of blending on the swords there. Then down here we've got these guys, which I use as my my Jackals for my World Eaters. But I actually, and you'll see as I go across, but I've got like 200 of them, and that's because there used to be a World Eaters, there used to be a Chaos Space Marine list where you would take like 180 cultists and then 1 unit of Poxwalkers, and then basically you'd string them all out, and then any time a cultist died, it became a poxwalker. So it meant somebody had to kill through all 180 cultists, then 180 poxwalkers, and it was just out of control. Then down here we've got another demon prince. We've got Angrath, the big Forge World greater demon, and we've got Be'lakor. Pretty happy with this Be'lakor as well. Pull him out. I basically was running a list that had, and you'll see in a minute, but I was running a list that had a ton of Bloodthirsters led by Be'lakor, and I wanted to make it so that Be'lakor was, more cornate, so I gave him this big corn axe. I gave him, some corn icons across him, just to sort of make him look a little bit more cohesive with the rest of the army. So that's old mate Be'lakor. Then we get into this next one. When the World Leaders Codex first got released, or leaked, I should say, I had a bloke reach out to me who did 3D printing, and he actually printed me this Angron with a very derpy face, but the rest of him's cool as fuck. And that way I was able to get Angron on the table straight away without having to wait for the World Leaders Codex to get actually released and all of the rules and all of the model line to be released. And that also allowed me to give Iron Wolf Painting a little bit more time to paint up that Angron for me while I played games with this one. And then we've got 2 more Bloodthirsters in there. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, plus 8 if you include the big guy. Then we go down onto the next shelf. We've got more Bloodletters, Fleshhounds, and Blood Crushers. And there's a Skull Cannon in there as well. And then down the bottom we have the old Be'lakor model. And then we also have another Angron model since before Angron was a thing. And my Soul Grinders, which I'm a big fan of, and I'll show you those in more detail in a moment. More Jackals as well. So you'll notice most of these shelves are sort of repeating themselves, because I've got this one shelf is just Bloodletters the whole way along. That's Fleshhounds the whole way along, etc. Next shelf we've got here is Kabunda. So this guy I bought when I was traveling to Warhammer World. I'd seen this model leaked, and I thought it was kind of cool, but I thought it wasn't that much more special than an actual Bloodthirster. However, when I saw it in person, I was just like, holy fuck, that's massive, and that's super cool. So I decided to pick one up while I was there as a sort of souvenir from my trip. And then this bloke is a guy that I used to run as Skulltaker before I had the actual Skulltaker model, where I just got a Bloodletter and a box of skulls and just put them together. Then we go down to, this is my old Bloodletters, so you can see the difference. How these guys have got the bone-coloured swords and very average paint jobs, whereas these guys have the, the fiery swords and much crisper skin. This was probably 10 plus years ago I painted these guys. More Fleshhounds, more Blood Crushers. This guy's actually really cool. He was a gift from a fan of the channel who's got an old school metal Bloodthirster riding a skull chariot with his whip. And I used that as a Rendmaster. And then we've got another Skull Cannon there. More Jackals. And down here we've got one of my favourite models in the whole collection is this lad here. He's been one of my favourite models for years. He's solid metal. He's actually a Warhammer Fantasy model. But I love his helmet. His helmet's cool as fuck. And just his intimidating pose. He's just sitting there with his shield up like, fuck you. All I really did was put a backpack on him and called him a Chaos Lord on a Juggernaut. Big fan of him. And then there's another Soul Grinder. You'll notice with the Soul Grinders, I've given them all Bloodthirster heads, Bloodthirster axes and arms, so that they really fit in with that Khorne theme. And then last cabinet, so we've got, would you believe it, another 3 Bloodthirsters. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, plus 12 13. So there's 13 Bloodthirster-esque models, which is pretty cool. I'm a big fan of Bloodthirsters, believe it or not. Here's some more of those old school Bloodletters that I almost never use. A couple more Blood Crushers. More Blood Crushers down here. I don't know what this guy's doing in here. That's not where he lives. Somebody probably borrowed him for a game and put him back in the wrong spot. More Cultists. Another Soul Grinder. And some Demon Princes. This was my original Scarbrand model since before Scarbrand got a model. He's actually a Forge World Demon Prince model, but I basically converted him up to have a couple of axes. These axes, you might recognize them. They're actually the icons from the Bloodletter kit that I've added some plasticard to and green stuff to make them into axes. And I used to run this guy as Scarbrand because Scarbrand didn't have wings, so that was just based on the lore depiction of Scarbrand. But then obviously they released a Scarbrand model, so I was like, oh, yep, sick, I'll take that. And then this guy here, also one of my favorites. He's a classic, this guy. Like spiders all over this fucker. He's a classic metal Chaos Space Marine Demon Prince. Big Bloodthirster axe and big dragon wings. This guy is very old. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of that old Demon Prince model where he actually looks like a Marine that's gone fucked up, as opposed to the Demon Prince model, which can sometimes look a little bit Age of Sigmar-y. So yeah, huge fan of the old Demon Prince there. And that rounds out my World Eaters collection. It's about 15 plus years in the making, maybe even more. There's been a lot of time and effort. I've painted every single one of those models myself, and most of them have seen, dozens of tournament games. I very rarely get something just for the sake of getting it. Most of the stuff that I get is for a specific list for a tournament, which is why the collection has expanded so much. And that's that side. So we'll come back to this side to talk through some trophies and stuff as well. But before we do, I want to flip it over and have a look at the other stuff. So over here, we've got a Tau army. I'll go through this a little bit faster because you're probably a little bit less interested because it's not World Eaters stuff, but I think it's still interesting to have a look. So Tau. So all this Tau was a big second-hand lot that I bought off a mate who was getting out of the hobby, and he was going to throw it all in the bin, and I was like, no, don't do that. I'll buy it off you. And most of it I painted over the course of like one weekend, where I just basically sprayed it all white, got some contrast paints out, and sorted it out. And this was when I'd been playing nothing but World Eaters Combat Armies for a very long time. And I was sick of getting just shot off the table. This is from back in the day when tournaments didn't have the same level of terrain standards as we have today. And combat armies really, really struggled. So I decided to dip my toe in the shooting arena, and Tau was the best place to do so. There was one event that I won with the Tau, much to my shame, where I ran, as you can see here, 48 drones and 4 Riptides. This was back when it was a 3,000 point event and they had a rule of 4 instead of rule of 3. So I ran that and it was just absolutely toxic, and it did really, really well. And I also wanted to try out something different with my paint palette on this because it was the first time I painted something that wasn't red. So it's like, well, what's the opposite of red? I'm going to try and do something that's like blues and purples and whites and like really crisp sort of look to it. It was also some of my first attempts at doing battle damage. Like you can see the like the rust and the wear on the Riptides there and stuff like that. First attempt at doing that, because that's really hard to do over red armor. Brown over red armor just doesn't work, whereas brown and rust over the top of the Tau worked quite well. Next up we have, this one probably interests you guys, is the Night Lords. So this was something that I 3D printed for a mate who's going to WTC this year, running the Night Lords. And basically, he doesn't own an army because he always borrows armies. And I was like, you know what? I'll print it for you. It's all yours, but it lives here, right? And that way, you know, we can use it for practice games, and I'll also put in all the effort of painting it, etc. So every model in here is heavily converted, 3D printed, Night Lord specific stuff. Bit of a slap chop paint job to get it on the table for him. But we've got 30 possessed along here. Then we've got another 30 Terminators. So I don't know who's keeping a tally, but I think that puts us at around 130 Terminators. And we're not done yet. Then down here we've got some really cool stuff. So I had a ton of fun modifying the STLs and modifying the files to get some really cool characters. So we've got like this Dark Apostle, Night Lord's Dark Apostle. We've got this Night Lord's Master of Possessions, where he's sort of levitating, using raptor legs, bits and bobs. Then we've got Night Lord's Huron, with the flamer coming out of his hand there, the big axe. We've got a Night Lord's Master of Executions here. I fucking love that model, that pose is sick. Over here we've got a Night Lord's Fabius Bile, who has his little minion beside of him. And then a Night Lord's Terminator Sorcerer in there. Then we've got a few other bits and bobs back here. We've got a Night Lord's Chaos Lord with Plasma Pistol and Thunderhammer. You might recognize that pose. That is a Khan the Betrayer STL that I downloaded and basically swapped out the chest plate with the Night Lord's logo, swapped out the helm, and swapped out some of his gear and chucked a cloak on him. All of this just modified up in Blender. And then the centerpiece, which is this Night Lord's Abaddon the Despoiler. So again, took an Abaddon the Despoiler model, an STL, and modified it, putting some Night Lord's shoulder pads on him, Night Lord's icons on him, Night Lord's helmet, modified the shit out of this sword so that Draknyen was some kind of cool Night Lord's version, and then added a cool cape to him as well. So he's our Night Lord's Abaddon the Despoiler, and then behind them is just more, or there's some Noise Marines there, but the rest of that stuff back there is just duplications of these characters. So that if we decide in one list we want to actually run 2 Master Executions, I can just grab another Master of Executions there, throw some paint on him, and he's good to go. So that's like the character shelf, if you will. Then we get down here into the Chosen shelf. So you can see we've got some cool rhinos in the background there. All of these files, by the way, are all available on the Patreon. So if you want to join that Patreon, it's a great place to go to get all of these files. And then these files here, these guys here are the Chosen. So giving them these cool orange swords, which contrasts with the blue. Making them look cool as shit. You know, the Night Lords love their lightning claws. Now you can see the paint jobs on these are pretty average. This was just to get them rushed because we needed them for an upcoming tournament. But I'm pretty happy with the work on the rhinos. You know, the infantry just sort of get rushed through. And we get down to the next shelf, we've got these cool Vindicators. Now you'll notice on the Vindicators, the same thing on the rhinos, where I've painted it so that when the 3 of them are in a line, it's like that pattern continues. Same thing goes on the front tracks of the rhinos. And then we've got 30, so there's 30 Chosen, 3 rhinos, and then we've got 3 Vindicators, and 30 Warp Talons as well. You know, it's not a Night Lord's army if you don't have 30 Warp Talons. And I think the Lightning Claws really look sick on these guys. So yeah, that's my Warp Talons. Then we get down to the next shelf where we've got 3 Predators, which haven't been painted yet because we haven't needed them, but as soon as we do, they'll get some paint thrown on them. And then we've got 6 units of 5 Legionaries with the big chain cannon, there's the guy with the power fist, etc. Next shelf down is we have a whole bunch of DACA. So this is our heavy support themed shelf. So you got your las cannon havocs, and then along the back there you've got your obliterators, which again we haven't had an opportunity to paint yet, but these have all got Night Lord's icons on them, Night Lord's helmets, just to create a real cohesive themed army. So I'm quite happy with those. And then this bottom shelf we've got Raptors along here and Chaos Bikers, and pretty happy with these bikers. What we did with the STL was we put the icon along the front of the, whatever you want to call that, the shield on the front of the vehicle. And then obviously helmet swaps, shoulder pads, there, if it'll focus, shoulder pads, and then the icons as well. So all kitted out, and then that is so that if we would do something like a Renegade Raiders style list with a ton of bikes, we could. And basically what I'm planning to do is once we get all of these guys painted up, we're going to do a battle report series where we do a bunch of different Night Lords lists versus a bunch of different World Eaters lists on these tables, and sort of showcase the two armies. So that's the Night Lords. All right, next we get over into Tyranids. So this was something that I experimented with, if I can open the door. Sorry. When I first bought my 3D printer, I wanted to test out printing, and I was like, well, what's something that I've never really done before? And that was organic material. You know, I'd done Chaos Space Marines, I'd done Tau, and I'd done World Eaters, but nothing really organic. So I decided to mess around with Tyranids. So printing your Zoanthropes, your Hive Tyrants, the wing version and the non-wing version. He's actually the what do you call him? This Swarm Lord. Then there's a bunch of warriors there, a bunch of Hive Guard from back when they used to be like top of the meta OP thing. A ton of warriors here, and a ton more down here, from back when you used to run like 30 warriors was a list. Then down here we've got triple Horror Specs, 3D prints, triple Exocrine, a bunch of the Venom Thropes, I think they're called. And then down here we've got triple Trigon and double, oh fuck, I don't remember what these big giant motherfuckers are called. But they were very fun to paint. I also had always wanted to paint this style of carapace, and so I figured some big Griblies is a good way to do it. And yeah, these guys were a ton of fun to print and paint, and that was sort of where I went to test how to use a 3D printer. I hadn't used a 3D printer. I've never actually played a game with these Tyranids. I just printed and painted a, probably what, a 3,000 point army of Tyranids just for shits and giggles. I've lent models to a bunch of people for various events, and we use them for practice games a lot as well, especially for teams events where we want to get practice into a specific type of list. We do that. Next, we've got some Necrons. Now, this one's less exciting. There's not much to it. There's essentially the Silent King who's fallen off of his fucking chariot, who I haven't got around to painting him yet because he's a big project and I want to do him right, but at the same time I don't play Necrons, so I don't really have the motivation to do it. Bunch of Scarabs here, and then a bunch of warriors. And this was basically a box that was given to me for dirt cheap, so I figured why not. And I just wanted to play around with some different color schemes. So this is going for like a Necron that's like almost a Tomb King's style color scheme. But I made the mistake of deciding that I was going to block in all of the knee joints and stuff. And fuck me, does that take a long time. And when you've got that many of them to paint, it's just insane. So I got to there and then gave up. So, yeah, but we use them for practice games as well. Then the shelves below it are when I was dipping my toe into the idea of running Heresy-era World Eaters. So we've got Heresy-era Khan the Betrayer, we've got Heresy-era Angron, we've got more Red Butchers, another 10, so now we're well over 100. Yeah, well over 100. Then we've got these rampages, more rampages, some razorbacks, and some legionnaires. More razorbacks, more legionnaires. And then down here we've got drop pods, a broken Contemptor Dreadnought, and a bunch of Devastators. One interesting thing here is I made this kind of cool. This was some of my first ever attempts at freehand. So I got these drop pods and I decided to paint a bit of a narrative. So that's like the World Eater's ship flying through, the galaxy. It finds a planet and bombs the fuck out of it. Then it drops all the drop pods in to assault the world. Then the Marines, this derpy looking Marine, is running around blasting cunts. And then that was going to be like a world on fire. And I didn't quite finish it. But yeah, that was just an attempt at freehand. I thought these were a nice big flat panel. So a nice area to sort of play around with. And basically my Warlord used to go attached to one of these units and go inside that drop pod and come in. And I didn't play many games with this. It was the main thing that I used to proxy using the normal vanilla Space Marine rules. But using, obviously, World Eaters themed models. And then we get over to the next shelf. So here we've got a full Custodes army, which only takes up a single shelf, and it's probably almost as many points as the fucking whole Tyranid army there. But there's a ton of Alaris, a ton of Wardens, and a ton of Guard, as well as your various characters throughout. So a pretty full-on Custodes army here. And these were painted in the Team Australia colours because there was a period there where Team Australia was considering running Custodes. So I was like, yep, leave it with me, guys. I'll print. These are all 3D printed. I'm like, I'll print and paint a Custodes army for us, and I'll print it in the Australian colours so it can be something we're proud of. So that was kind of cool. But now we get into the rest of the Loyalists. Now, one of the things that I did, you would have noticed on the previous shelf, I was saying how I had the Emperor's Children painted in that bone colour, so that they would match the World Eaters. Well, what I decided to do is paint my Loyalists in that same color palette so that I could share vehicles. I could share Rhinos, I could share Vindicators. Like if I wanted to run a World Eaters list with a Vindicator in it, I could. Or if I wanted to run a Blood Angels list with a Vindicator, I could use the same Vindicator without having to buy extras, right? So basically this is all the Space Marines now. It's a lot of it is Blood Angels, but it's not all Blood Angels, and it's all designed to work in any chapter. So we've got a fuck ton of Sanguinary Guard along here, and a fuck ton of Vanguard veterans along the back there. Then down here, we've got a ton of Death Company. These are Vanguard veterans as well from when I was running Raven Guard, and I'd basically run an entire unit where they all had Thunderhammer, Storm Shield, Jump Pack, and that unit used to be absolutely ridiculous. They used to scout 12 and then move 12 with an advance and charge, which was fucking crazy. Then we've got all the Phobos guys. So intercessors, not intercessors, they're in the next shelf over. These are the Phobos Inceptors, I think. Fuck, I don't know what they're called. You guys know what they are. Space Marines. Then we've got Centurions. They used to go with these guys, the Raven Guard. And they used to be a really cool list where you could turn one deep strike your Centurions and just blast people. So they were really cool. Then we've got a couple of Repulsors, a bunch of Outriders. This Chaplain guy who's pretty cool, pretty powerful character. That guy, the way he attached to units and what he was able to give them. Then we've got down here a couple of really interesting things. First we've got my converted up Thunderfire cannons. So there was a period where Thunderfire cannons were really, really good, but they were really hard to get access to. So I actually got a mate, this was before I had a 3D printer, a mate printed me these barrels, and then I basically took some bits and bobs that I had kicking around. Like, I don't know where these tank tracks are from. I think they're from a fucking Baneblade kit that I had kicking around. Then those sides are from a Defiler kit. This plate on the top is from an Aegis defense line. The casing is from a Hunter-Killer missile. The panel on the back is from the inside of a Rhino. Like, it's just the most ridiculous collection of bits. But getting those and one of these Tech Marines gives you your Thunderfire cannon, and I was able to run 3 of them. And then this guy, who's also one of my favorite heavy models in my collection, is the big Chons himself, the Falchion. And tell ya, the edge highlighting on this took actually infinite time. I literally feel like I'm still doing it. It took that long to do. But yeah, he's really, really cool. And there was a period there where you could run him, and he was one of the first things that had access to -1 damage. So having him with -1 damage in a world where almost everybody was 2 damage and he had a ton of wounds was really, really interesting and really, really powerful. So that's the first cabinet of the Loyalists. And now we go over, they actually have enough that they have 2. We go across here. We've got a couple of the Brutalis Dreadnoughts, a ton of Blade Guard here, and then some pretty cool characters as well. Pretty happy with this Jump Pack Chaplain. He used to roll around with my Raven Guard. He was really, really good. Then there was the Jump Pack Sorcerer, which, good luck flying around with a jump pack with robes like that, but I thought it was cool. And then there's this guy who was my captain with the Teeth of Terror. And he would fuck things up. And this was me dipping my toe into the Loyalists for a little bit. This is when I was sort of trying to be good, you know? And I was like, well, Marines are at the top of the meta right now, so I'm going to play Marines. We've got Mephiston in there as well. And I got some pretty good results with these guys, but I wasn't really enjoying it. So I decided, you know what, I would much rather play with a faction that I have a passion for and do, you know, middle to good, than play a faction that I don't have a passion for and go good to great. A ton of scouts from the Raven Guard. They used to be really, really good in Raven Guard. We've got a ton of aggressors with Inceptors in the back there. These aggressors, I call the chapter Sons of Anubis. That was my successor chapter. That's one of the things that I do really like about the Space Marines in general, is that you can sort of be a bit more creative with them and come up with your own warbands. You can obviously do that with the World Leaders as well, but it kind of looks a little bit weird, whereas it looks more natural for the Space Marines. And then here's where we have all of the intercessors. So we've got all the assault intercessors along the back and the regular ones along the front there. Then down here we have a bunch of 3D prints of various Devastator Marines, some more Terminators, and then also at the back there we have the T-shirt cannon, fucking, what were they called? You know the guys. I don't remember their name. The heavy support Primaris Devastator guys. And then we've got the Terminators along here, which also run as Deathwing Knights for when we're doing practice games, just to, you know, get the Terminator models out there. And then we've got a jet thingy, a whirlwind. We've got more Terminators, just because there's not enough Terminators in this garage. We've got some attack bikes, which don't exist anymore. And this guy was also really, really fun and really, really good at one stage. The old Leviathan with the butcher cannons. He was really cool. So that's that shelf. And then we get over to this shelf over here, which is my non-Khorne Chaos stuff. So we've got the Keeper of Secrets in the back there. We've got, what's that? It's not Shalaxi. It's, fuck, I forget the name of this cunt. But this is all my Slanesh stuff, plus Blue Scribes. Then this next shelf, we've got various characters. So we've got the Master of Executions that I used to run alongside my Emperor's Children. We've got the Master of Possessions over here. We've got Terminator Sorcerers. We've got a Dark Apostle here. And his little friends. Got lots of bits and bobs there. Then down here we've got our Death Guard. So we've got... This is another good one. This is another... Look, get a 3D printer, everyone, just for the fun of doing stuff like this. So They're 3D printed Plague Burst crawlers, and I wanted. There's a Forge World thing called a quad cannon that I wanted them to fit the theme of my Death Guard army. So what I did is I took the Plague Burst crawler and I scaled it down to be really small, took the sponsons off, took the blade off the front, the dozer blade off the front, and replaced the mortar in the back with this little quad cannon piece, and made my own little Death Guard quad cannon dudes. And I think they're super cool, and I had a ton of fun making those. They're adorable. And then we've got cultists still in the front here, and I also made 3 different tallymen. So these are all 3D printed, but as you can see, he's like a tallyman with his plasma pistol and his little tallies that he keeps on his shoulder. You'll notice that swirling icon. This was from a gaming club called Maelstrom that I was part of, where we all had those on our shirts and stuff, so I decided to make like a Maelstrom themed army. Next shelf down, we've got like 100 Plague Bearers. This was from, there was a period there where there was a list that was very popular that had a ton of Plague Bearers that I was on a team and they wanted me to pilot that, so I bought all these Plague Bearers. Next down, we've got Brimstone Horrors, Zangors, Ahriman, Zangor Enlightened, and they went together with these guys to make a pretty savage list that you would also then put a ton of Bloodletters in. Next shelf down, we've got my Great Unclean One, who I'm really, really proud of the paint job I did on him. I think he looks fucking gross, which is what you want. And then we've got some... this is a funny story. So, there was a period where there was a list that had like, I don't know, like 90 Nurglings that was going to be OP, because when they came out, the points per wound, like there were 4 wounds each, and they were like 12 points each or something stupid. They were really cheap. So me and a mate came up with this crazy list that was like 100 Nurglings. But we weren't going to buy 100 Nurglings because they were so expensive. It's like $50 for 3. So what we did is we went out, we found these gum nuts in the garden, and we're like, okay, cool, if we glue them to bases, it's like a Nurgle spawn, and then these tendrils and stuff coming at it, that's actually just blue tack that I've rolled up and then coated in super glue so it's firm. And then to make sure that it was very clear that they are Nurglings, we basically just put a Nurgling on top of each one. So it's like the Nurgling is riding the spore down into battle. And we're like, yep, these are our counts as, our proxy as Nurglings. It's the same base size, it's the same height, same dimensions. But that allowed us to write a list that was 100 Nurglings. But it was actually just a fucking bunch of gum nuts. Fuck. Anyway, we move on. Couple of lot of changes in here. I'm really happy with the paint job on these guys as well. Like the wings turned out really, really cool. This was my first attempt at using the Army Painter contrast paints, the speed paints. Then we've also got a couple of Sonic Contemptor Dreadnoughts from when I was running the Emperor's Children. And we've also got some Chaos Knights. Now this was when I was toying with the idea of 3D printing an entire Chaos Knights army, and I wanted to modify them so that my war dogs were dogs. So they look like that. And then basically I was going to magnetize the weapons on the top there so that they had the same height and whatnot as a proper war dog. But I gave them essentially a Helldrake's neck as a tail, and then modified the legs to work for a dog looking thing, and then that face is off of a blood slaughterer. And this is one of the beautiful things you can do with a 3D printer, is you can just go, cool, I've got this crazy idea for a conversion, and whatever parts you need for the conversion, you just have. And then this guy here was going to be my Abominant. So I'm pretty happy with him as well. So it's essentially a scaled up version of that War Dog, but made out of like, you know, the big knight's parts. And yeah, he turned out quite cool. So the same concept is I wanted them to all be dogs coming at you. Helldrake neck as a tail, big blade on the back, big fucking cannon on the top. And he stands about the same height with the cannon factored in, because he's obviously his body stands a bit lower, but he's got the cannon on the top to make that extra height, so there's no WYSIWYG problems. These days, I think you'd probably struggle because he's so much wider than a normal knight that you're actually putting yourself at a massive disadvantage. But rule of cool, I'm pretty happy with him. And yeah, I was toying with the idea of going hard and just 3D printing an entire knight army, but I kind of ran out of space. Then last but not least, we've got over here, got this fortress thingy. Let me just get in behind here on the dog's bed. So this shelf, which is very, very poorly organized at the moment because I've recently lent these models to somebody, and when they've brought them back, they've been very disrespectful and they've just thrown them in the shelf wherever. But this was my Deathwatch army, and which I built this Deathwatch army because at the time, Deathwatch were the worst faction in the game. And I decided that what I wanted to do was take a break from competitive 40k and spend some time playing in the bottom tables, teaching some of the less experienced players some of the fundamentals of the game. And the way that I was going to do that was I was basically going to write a really bad list that's really thematic and cool, and then just play that at events. So I had all of these guys, you know, these cool Deathwatch guys. I made all these cool Stormbolters for them, and had a ton of fun modifying each model. But like, as you can see, they've been used and abused to some extent, which is a bit disappointing, but it is what it is, you know. And then down here we've got a Sisters of Battle army that was painted in that same purple theme so that it ties in with all of the Loyalist Marines that I've got. And then some, you know, bits and bobs. And then down here we've got my Loyalist Imperial Knight army. So we've got a Lancer there, Atropos at the back, Asherons, Megara, I believe it's called. And this cunt is fucking a mad lad. So he was designed to go with the Deathwatch army, because you used to be able to run an allied gallant. And I decided to make a shield for him because there was an enhancement you could give him, or a thing that gave him a 4-up invulnerable save in combat. So I was like, cool, so he has a storm shield. So I made this storm shield for him. And you can read it here. It says, "Such purge. I came here to purge Xenos and fuck, and I'm all out of fucks. Alpha Titan." So yeah, this guy's a bit of a chat, and I had a bit of a play with some freehand on the banner down there, and some freehand up here with the hazard stripes and stuff. So that was a ton of fun. And then I also had some fun with freehand on this guy, doing some stripes, some checkers on his armor. And yeah, ton of fun there with the Loyalists, the Imperial Knights. Which, who knows, with the new rules, maybe they'll come back out to play. So that covers off the entire model collection. There's also one thing I missed is my my Thunderhawk up here, Forge World Thunderhawk, and the this guy who I also bought while I was in Europe for WTC. I had a bit of an experiment using the Army Painted Contrast paints on this guy as well, just exclusively using them. I'm not super happy with the way this turned out. I think he needs some highlights and stuff like that before he'll look good. But it was just sort of a nice big piece that I could experiment with. And I converted him to have... He's supposed to have like a Lord of Change head, a Great Unclean One head, and a Bloodthirster head, but I converted him to have all three of them as Bloodthirsters, and then put this Khorne Berserker on the back to create this really cool fucking giant, like, that's a fully outstretched arm and I can barely get the whole cunt in the frame. And now let's talk about some of these trophies, eh? So first off, up the top here, we've got the 2024 champions for the ANZ TC. So that's the Australian New Zealand Team Championships, big teams event, the most prestigious event in Australia, where Team Victoria, my team, was the champions of 2024. We can also see there's a hammer here, which was first place at Geelong Heresy, first place 2023. So they 3D printed this hammer, which also has an opening in it that serves as a beer mug holder. So that's cool. But then we get into this. So the trophy case is actually getting quite full. We've got at the back there is Tio's Choice Best Presented at EastCon 2015. We've got a first place at Risky Rollers. We've got a first place at GTO. We've got, that's just a cool Khan the Betrayer that I painted that I wanted to put in there. And that's some limited edition coins from the Khorne Demonkin book. Then down on this shelf, this is a bunch more teams events. So this is the Australia-New Zealand Team Championships for 2022, I think it was, where my team came second. That's my team at the back there. That's me up the front. The team actually built this frame for me and put a bunch of really nice messages to me because we did some really interesting stuff that year engaging the community. So they wanted to say thank you. So they made me that frame and put my medal in there. Then we've got WTC third place from when I was coach. We've got Gladiator Games third place. There's what else is in there? There's not much else in there. That's just a token thing that I wanted a thing. Some gifts from WTC when we came third. You get the bronze dice. We've got a first place best overall from the Assault on the Black Library. A few more things from WTC. Down here, we've got a whole bunch of stuff from the Australia-New Zealand Team Championships. So there's a bronze, a gold, a silver, a bronze, and back there is another gold. So I've attended the Australian-New Zealand Team Championships for like 8 years now, and we've only not podiumed once. Every other year we've been on the podium, which is really, really exciting. We've got these, which are just Team Australia dice from this year. I like to keep the dice from each year and put them on display as a reminder of that year. And then also this one is from a fundraiser event that I went to and came third. Then up here we've got first place at the team championships in Maitland. We've got, that is the Slaughter of Armageddon, highest battle points, so first place at the Black Crusade. Down here we've got Radicalism 2022, came second. Ratcon 2020, first place. Up here we've got Slaughter of Armageddon again, first place overall. And then we've also got War for Vigilus, third place, and another token. Then down here, we've got Ratcon 2023, best painted and strength in numbers, first place. And then this lad here is, he's actually part of the Team Australia fundraiser raffle. He's one of the prizes, but I'll put him in there for safekeeping. And then all the other prizes are up there that are ready to be drawn in a couple of weeks. So they're the prizes there. Then on this wall here is actually some prizes. This chain axe here was first place at Geelong Town Open. I'm not sure what year it was, but as soon as I saw that that was the trophy, I was like, okay, if anybody even dares try to win this fucking tournament, I'm going to be offended. Like, I was like, I just pulled out all the stops. I was like, I have to win this tournament. And because that's probably one of my prized possessions, one of the things I'm the most proud of. And I fucking love it. I love it to death. It was also a really interesting tournament. It was very, very close, the final game. So I'm playing in the finals. I'm playing off for this axe. I need to win, and it was so clutch. I nearly passed out when I won because it was off the back of some really, really clutch dice rolls. It was fucking intense. Then over here, we've got second place best general at Geelong Heresy. We've got overall winner at Geelong Heresy for 2019. Geelong Heresy is a really cool event that's heavily themed around like having drinks, having fun, but playing hard 40k. And they recognize that with these mugs, which is cool. More Geelong Heresy stuff. I'll go across this one. We've got 2021 best overall and 2021 first place. So 2019, I won Geelong Heresy. 2021, I won Geelong Heresy. 2022, best general as well. So bunch of years worth of Geelong Heresy of just me dominating it. Then we've got here the 40k draft best overall, which was a cool little RTT. And then what else have we got here? We've got the Risky Rollers Open 2024, best in faction chaos, and Adelaide Uprising 2025 Can't remember what I won that for, but I got that as well. Then moving along here, the VTC is the Victorian Team Championships. It's typically a 5 or a 4-man team event that's run every year in Victoria. That's one of the bigger events in Victoria, and I've won that. We came second, we came second, we came second. I think I've always come second at that, which is frustrating. Men's Masquerade is second place. Then there's a couple of RTT trophies in the back there. These cufflinks were actually a gift that was given to me in honor of all of the tournament organizer stuff that I was doing, and it's sort of hard to see because they're so old. But that's got the YouTube channel embroidered in it, or engraved in it, I should say. So that was actually, I ran a tournament series, and at the end of the series, I was giving away the season awards, and one of the members of the community got up and they said that they wanted to do an announcement, and I was like, yeah, sure. And they're like, yeah, we want to announce that we're awarding this to Dean, and they gave me those, which was a super nice gesture. Super appreciative. What else we got here? We've got Best in Faction World Leaders for 2024. We've got Squad Games 3rd place 2024. We've got the Australian ITC 2022 Best Chaos Space Marines player. We've got another 2nd place from a RTT. We've got this guy here, the Risky Rollers Open 2024, 3rd place with this really cool glass trophy. We've got a 1st place at a Mensa Masquerade back there. I think that's a 1st place. Yep, Mensa Masquerade 1st place. Mensa Masquerade is one of the smaller events, but it has the most density of top players. All of the top players from Australia attend the Mensa Masquerade, and it's a really intense event. It basically makes every round, every game feels like a top table game because there's no bad players, there's no inexperienced players. Everyone there's a shark. So winning that was a huge honor. Then we've got a bunch more team stuff in here. So we've got the teams tournament 1st place. We've got Squad Games 1st place. We've got Squad Games 1st place for a different year. So 2023 and 2025 we came 1st. We've got Mensa Open 2016 Players' Choice Best Presented and 2016 3rd overall. So that's from the Mensa Masquerade. The Mensa Open. Then down here we've got the Mensa Masquerade, again 3rd there and 1st there. So a couple of Mensa Masquerade wins. The Victorian Team Championships from 2024, 1st place. And the Mensa Open champion for 2017. So that rounds out the trophy collection. So as you can see, many, many, many years of Warhammer 40k, all in competitive tournaments, and some pretty solid success achieved across those years. So, there's something to be said for, winning tournaments in every edition and winning consistently for years on end. It's very rewarding to look back on these and reflect on them, which is why I keep them out on display. It's not a vanity thing. It's more just so that, when I'm out here writing lists or painting or preparing for a tournament, and I start to doubt myself and think, oh, can I do it? Am I still up to the challenge? Can I win? Is it worth it? I can sort of glance across and look at these trophies, and it reminds me of, that feeling of being up on the podium, and it motivates me. And then basically that's, as you've guessed, that's the backdrop for the YouTube videos, where what I used to do back in the day is I'd have the camera set up here on a tripod, and I'd be sitting over here. However, often this space is being utilized for games days, lots of hobby, lots of 3D printing, lots of bullshit going on. So this room gets very messy very fast. So that's why I decided to just set the tripod up and then take a photo and then use that as the backdrop over there on the green screen, so that, it doesn't matter how fucking messy this room gets, as long as there's no mess in between that camera and that screen, we're golden. So that's more or less a full tour and walkthrough of the space behind the scenes. The other thing is up here we've got a Fire Warriors pulse cannon, whatever it's called, pulse fucking carbine, pulse rifle, thank you. And then also along the top here we've got a whole ton of white dwarfs and codexes, and then a whole ton more codexes over here, and then I've also got a whole ton more that are currently boxed away. They normally sit all the way along this shelf, but I'm using this shelf at the moment for some other bits and pieces. So as soon as WTC is over, these prizes get shipped out. These are gifts for the other teams. We can get those codexes back out on display, those rules back out on display. But yeah, so that's the collection. This is the side that you probably don't see very often because it's not behind the camera. And then basically what we're looking to do is a little bit more in the battle report space. So I'm planning on getting, I've got the equipment now to get some top-down cameras mounted along this beam here that's going to look down onto these tables. And then basically we're going to look at having a few like round robin style tournaments where we get 4 people in here and we get 2 versus 2, like 1 versus 1 there, 1 versus 1 there, alternating opponents and going through and doing little round robin style tournaments here, and then having a top-down camera and a commentating team and having top players on these tables. And then basically I'm hoping to have like, there'll be a camera set up here, there'll be a camera set up in that corner looking down on that angle, in that corner looking down on that angle, and then there'll be the top-down cameras. So basically going to hopefully, this is one of the reasons why I want as much support from you guys as I can get via either the Patreon or via purchasing bits and pieces or via super chats, because I'm basically trying to save up enough money so that I can basically cover this fucking room in cameras and then do some really interesting stuff where I invite top players onto the channel, maybe put up $1,000 prize so that they actually take it seriously and record the entire thing and make a really interesting, expose out of it. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of that as an idea, if that's something you'd like to see. And yeah, let's wrap it up. Alrighty guys, there we have a full walkthrough and behind the scenes of what happens here at Blog for the Blood Gods. So I hope you guys found that interesting. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Let me know especially what you think of that proposal that I put forward right at the end of the video there about potentially rigging this place up with some more cameras and filming those sorts of events. And thank you very much for the support you guys have given me throughout the last 10 plus years that I've been doing this YouTube thing. Started off just as a little hobby for me when I lived out in the country and I had no one to share the hobby with, so I was like, well, I'll create a Facebook page and I'll do that. And then went from the Facebook page to a YouTube channel where I was just sharing and showcasing what I was working on, essentially just trying to engage the community. And then that has just absolutely blown up over the years as I've become more prominent in the tournament community and more prominent in like that community spaces. I've got a lot of feedback and worked with you guys to create this channel. So it's not just me that should be celebrating this, it's all of you guys as well. And I just really want to say, I have genuine from the bottom of my heart, thank you for all of the support you've given me over the years. Every time you guys put a comment in, that helps me, that helps the channel, it helps our engagement. Every one of you that has subscribed to the channel, that helps. Even just clicking the like button on a video goes a long way towards telling the YouTube algorithm that this is good quality content, which then pushes it out and allows us to reach more people and bring them into our community. And at the end of the day, I don't make any money from running this channel. All of the money that does come in immediately gets translated into equipment that allows me to improve the quality of this content for you guys. And I wouldn't be able to do it without your help. So thank you very much for your continued support. And I look forward to taking this next chapter. So with that being said, happy 15,000 subscribers, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
The Warhammer community suffers from some of the most prohibitively expensive essentials in the world, especially Australian content creators. Every single day, Dean wants to create content, but he can't. Suffering from old, worn-out brushes, expensive model kits, and costly software and equipment, he can't endure much longer. Just look at this dirty paint water. Would you drink this? Would you let your child? Even a small monthly donation can help provide Dean with clean paint water, basic tools for survival, and access to life-saving information and education. So please, follow the links in the description below and find out how you can sponsor a mad cunt like Dean today and end the suffering. Suffering that is cruel